Well, I mentioned there were two covers on the album. The other one being Brian Ferry's "More Than This," which is an up-tempo number, which you very effectively converted into a ballad. So, what inspired this reimagining of his song?
Well, I was on the road with him doing his British, supporting him for the British or his British dates a couple of years ago, and so I was hearing this song every single night, and what it did is it kind of summed up the way that I was feeling. It meant something very different to me because at the time I was very homesick, and even though you're surrounded by your musicians and your friends, you still go home alone. You still go back to your hotel room at night and sit there and miss the things that mean the world to you, like, the person you love, the people you love, your dog. That's what it's like on the road. You get these incredible highs, and then you sit alone and wonder what to do with all these great feelings. And so that's what it meant to me, really. It stopped being about romance and about, affairs of the heart. It became more about, the message to me was that without the people that you really love in your life, sharing your highs, and goodness knows your lows, but sharing your highs, they don't mean as much. None of it means as much, and it fits in with the whole, as I was describing, the whole theme of the album, which is about not missing the important stuff in life. And for people like me who live to entertain and want to be on stage in the spotlight, it's an important moment when you realize that even the great moments in life, they're not anywhere near as sweet if you can't share them with the people that mean the most to you. So that's really what the song turned into, and that's why it has I think that kind of, it turns into a ballad, but it comes something of great tenderness. And what made it even more special for me was the fact that I recorded it along with Aquarius in Brian Ferry's studio, because it was around about the time, you remember we were talking about not doing, what happened at my house when the Albert Hall gig fell through.
Right.
Well, this is also what happened at my house. What happened was when he was ill, we then thought, well, let's use the time well, and let's go in and record some more songs. And they happened to be these songs that I was working on. And that was Aquarius and More Than This. So imagine my joy actually recording that song, which is my favorite. It really is my favorite Brian Ferry song. I think it's a gorgeous, gorgeous song. And the words are stunning. And I got to record them in his studio at his piano. And again, it was pretty much one take. Aquarius was just, I went in there to try the piano and see how it felt, because it's all about how the piano is. And
sure.
And Ross sat at the drums, and it wasn't even mic'd, it was just coming through my vocal mic, and it was such a good take, and it had the spirit of it, and it had the kind of funkiness of it and trashiness of it, the drum sound. I just said that was it, and we never recut it. And More Than This was pretty much the same thing. It was absolutely down and done, and it was, again, it sort of, it always looks, it looks so incredibly, I'm sure from the outside it looks really incredibly glamorous and sexy being on the road or performing, but I always tell people it's 22 hours of absolute hard work, and usually the most unglamorous environments, and then it's, if you're lucky, 2 hours or maybe an hour of joy on stage. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of loneliness. I mean, not that I'm saying boo-hoo, poor me, because I have the most wonderful life, and I get to do the thing I love in life as my job. But there's a lot of loneliness. I understand why people turn to drugs and alcohol, and you spend way too much time trying to figure out where to put your energy from these highs. That's really a big part of it.
Well, the performance is the payoff, and it's why everybody endures, not just the travel and but also the business aspect of it and all the stuff, the unpleasantness, because the performance is the payoff. Now, those two recordings, Aquarius and More Than This, they do not sound like rushed or spontaneous. They sound polished and agonized over. So I guess
it's amazing, isn't it? Because I was listening to some of my songs back, because I'm just compiling my covers right now, all the things that I've done, and every single version of everything I record is one take, and it's always It's never overthought, and it's never polished. And it's really, absolutely, that's why the live performances are not a disappointment for the listener, but actually more exciting, because they sound exactly like, they sound like what you're hearing, but more exciting, because then you have the live aspect where I can actually take more liberties and have more fun. And they're more exciting, but none of this is overthought out. I'm not that kind of a person. I let the music speak for itself, but I guess it probably just shows how complete the songs are and how complete it is before I go into the studio. But I never labor, and I'm always amazed at how polished and how big a sound it is, considering there's so little going on.
You don't need a lot of elements if you have great players and everybody has a great sound. In fact, one of my observations when I listened to your album the first time is when you use all those classic sounds, the human voice, the strings, the piano, it gives it sort of a out of time quality that no one could listen to one of your tracks and know what year it was recorded, because the elements that you use are the sort of timeless elements.
I'm glad you said that, because and I feel the same way listening. I rarely listen to my own work, but I just had to for doing this. And I have to say, I was going back, 12 years, 13 years listening to stuff, and none of it, you cannot put a date on any of it. The word timeless, it makes me so happy when I hear that, because I don't use any artificial sounds. I don't want to say artificial. I don't use sounds that can be put into an era. You hear pop records from the 90s or the 80s, or say going back, and you can label them as a time, for sure. But I attempt to be an authentic artist, and I like authentic sounds that speak to you, doesn't matter what the era or time or date. And I think strings, the piano for a start, that right there, you're talking about an instrument, it's like the guitar, in the same way, these are real things that reach into us and resonate with us. The piano is an astounding instrument. The human voice, you're talking about the most basic things, but they're the things that really move us and reach us. Mm-hmm. And I don't think there's, fundamentally, if you go back to it, if I sit at the piano and sing, how these songs start out, they're complete, they're there, it's mm-hmm. there. And all I want, and I hear the arrangements in my head, and I hear all the things that I want, and what it is like an orchestra to me. It is very much that classical thing. Mm-hmm. It's about orchestrating it so that it doesn't clutter and it doesn't overwhelm, but it brings the song to life, and it enhances the song and the performance, and it makes it shine, and it makes me shine and my voice shine, and that's really what music is to me, and that shows that I've come from a classical background, I think, and I think those are the things that do stand up over time, and that's why we're still all obsessed with classical music. It really is, a timeless thing. I would never put myself in that category, but you know what I'm saying. And I'm very, very glad to hear you say that. I really am. That's what I aspire for. It means that it puts me outside a box, can't put me in a category or pigeonhole what I do, which is tough in many ways. But I also think it means that hopefully someone will listen to this, in many years' time and think, oh, that could be done now. I don't know when that was recorded, but it could be now.
Yeah, so there's that. And the other reason I know your work is good is sometimes I'll just catch a tune playing in my head randomly. I'm getting in the car or walking out of the grocery store, and what is that? Oh, that's Judith's song, So I just, that's how I know that the songs have staying power.
The earworm element, which is what that is the best sign that you're writing a good song, or that you've written a good song. The minute I hear Pedro, particularly, who is, I haven't really gone on enough about how remarkable Pedro is, because I have a total star and legend in Leland. I have these wonderful string players, the three girls, and Gabby, Lizzie, and Megan. And then I have this remarkable, and I say this for, live work, as in what I'm on the road doing now, but also recording, this remarkable, young, astounding percussionist who is the perfect hybrid of classical and jazz, and one of the most musical people I've ever met in my life. And when Pedro, at all of 28, when I hear him whistling, singing one of my songs, I know this is good, because he's just got that, he's got that thing. He just picks up on these these melodies. And it's interesting. It's like I gauge this all the time. If I go into a studio and do a radio interview or perform somewhere, and I hear like a grip or a tech or a guy, you know, a cameraman, anybody, and I hear them whistling the song, any of the songs, I'm like, that's what it's about.
That's success.
So that's what it is for all of us. It's what it's about.
I agree. I also want to mention that you've made some nice videos for a few of the tunes on the album, including More Than This and Somebody's Child. Those are both great, but my favorite one is for your song "Send Me a Line." And you told us that Somebody's Child was inspired by a real event. So for your sake, I hope this didn't happen in real life. Did you film that video in your house?
Actually, that was in my in my cameraman's the guy filming it. That was his place in LA.
Gotcha.
And I took the dog and the cat, and then we found this pretend cat, which is my favorite part of the whole thing. I mean, the whole thing is about how literally, you know, life is what happens when you're too busy taking selfies. I mean, that's what it's all about. And the fact that we created this monster where none of us can close our phones or shut down our computers. God forbid, you know, somebody's trying to get in touch with us, or God forbid somebody doesn't call me back in 20 seconds. Like I said before, it's just, you know, I lose it. I just lose it because I think the world hates me and I've done something wrong and what's happened and why. You know, I lost my phone the other day, or I left it behind and had 3 days without a phone, and remembered what it was like when we didn't have cell phones and how actually wonderful it was in many ways, where you couldn't be got anywhere, anyhow, anywho. And actually had to wait, you know. I mean, other times I felt naked and terrified that I actually couldn't find somebody immediately on my phone. But this whole video is so tongue-in-cheek because, you know, my pets, my fabulous dog Doris Day and the cat Elle Fitzgerald, they are the intelligent people in this video. I'm the idiot because I can't get off my phone. So it's a series of me just like screwing up left, right, and center because I literally can't put the phone down.
The reason I asked if it was done at your home was because I knew those were your actual pets. I've seen photos of your pets. So there's that. I just went to Austin, Texas and visited my brother and his wife and kids. And it was a 4-day trip. And I just announced to everybody, I'm not going on Facebook or Twitter or, you know, I'm just going to be inaccessible for 4 days. And yeah, you know, I was focused on the family time, and I didn't ever sit around and go, gosh, you know, I wonder what's happening right now on the Facebook threads.
Well, good for you, because I had a situation recently. I was at Chris Difford from Squeeze. He is Squeeze. I was invited to his writing camp for 5 days down in Somerset, which I had the most amazing time with people like Beth Nielsen Chapman and my friend Judith Owen and Louise Goff and all these amazing writers and a lot of young writers who are aspiring writers, and we all write together. And there was no cell service, there was no internet, there were no TVs, and I have to say, it was the most brilliant environment to write in. It is about, you know, being present and actually not like somebody came up to the end of a show and said, you know, that song, Tell Your Children, I mean, we can turn back. We can turn this around. You know, we can stop all the damage, you know, from the planet, can't we? And I said, no, we can't. No, we can't. That's the whole point of the song, is that we can't. We've gone too far now. We can slow it down, but we can't reverse the damage. We can't bring back extinct animals and species. We can't bring back glaciers or icebergs. Yeah, I mean, we can't. You know, we can't bring back that lost ice in Antarctica. We can't bring back these things. We can't do it. We can slow it down and we can try and put the brakes on, but that takes a huge change in lifestyle. I think that's ultimately a lot of what this album's about. And it's not lecturing, and it's not meant to be a downer, and it's not meant to be you know, me just pointing the finger at anybody. I'm counting myself as being up front, you know, the first person who does this. You know, it's me. Mm-hmm. This is everything that I do, and I think we're all like this.
You mentioned Marvin Gaye earlier, and he did that same thing where he would deliver his message without lecturing. Listening to his music is a pleasant experience. Listening to your music is a pleasant experience. But if you keep your ears open to what's being said, you know, there's something in there without sort of being hit over the head with it.
That's one of the most powerful ways of doing this, is to entertain and to say something. I mean, that's why, you know, again, I'll say it, but Marvin Gaye perfect example. That's who really inspired me to write Tell All Your Children That Way. But, Joni Mitchell, Big Yellow Taxi, this was probably the greatest of the greatest when we're talking about this. And it's like, and Bob Dylan, early Bob Dylan, these are incredibly entertaining and wonderful songs. These are great melodies. They're things you want to listen to, but they also carry weight to them. And why not? Why not do that? We haven't done it for a long time. I think it's about time people got a bit more social and political in their music.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And before I forget, I want to direct everyone to your YouTube channel, which is really easy to find. Just go to YouTube and search for Channel Judith Owen. And those 3 words will get you there. And let's also be sure to mention the bus session video series as well, because those are a lot of fun. And you mentioned Pedro and Gabrielle and Lee and yourself. I mean, that's and you also mentioned intimate performances. I mean, you guys are sitting on a bus performing. So those are really fun to watch. And it helps you appreciate someone like Pedro, as you mentioned, because he's just sitting there doing what he does. And you can see on the facial expressions of all the other players that they're really tuned in to, the emotional content of your music, as well as just, I'm going to play a G and I'm going to play a B flat, and this is the rhythm.
No.
Yeah, they get it.
These are really emotionally, these are empathic people. And you can be a great player, you can be a great musician, but when I choose my musicians, when I choose who is going to dress my songs, shall we say, and I mean that, I really mean that, who are going to embrace it. It has to be passionate people who don't they're not playing the notes just because they're playing the notes or reading the music. I take the music as way. As soon as they know the music, well, with Pedro and Lee, there is no music to read. They're doing it by ear, as I do. I don't read or write anything. So as the minute that we're all feeling it, that's it. That's when it's really there. It all comes from the heart. It all comes from an authentic place of humanity. So I have these beautiful players that feel it, and you can see it on their faces, and that's why it's a joy. It's a joy performing because they're an extension of me, and that's why I always tell people is like, it's not enough to just have, like you say, people playing. I choose these people because they are an extension of my heart, my head, my playing, my sound. It's an extension of me, and so it's wonderful to be on the same wavelength as people. It's a really very, very special thing. It's quite rare, very, very rare in this world to see that. Oh, yes. And it's a joy, and I'm so thrilled that August we get to, we get to be joined by the fabulous Lizzie Ball, who's well known, I think, in America for her playing with Jeff Beck, she really is an extraordinary violinist. She and Gabriella are best friends, but they are so in tune with each other. They are so connected, and you hear this in their playing. They sound like if 2 people can sound like a tiny orchestra, they do. It's amazing. Yeah,
it's it all goes to show if you have 5 or 6 players and they're all amazing players, they will sound like as they say, the sum is greater than the parts, or however the expression goes. But we're talking about your touring. I'm going to give some specific information here. I recommend everybody go to judithowen.net to make sure you always have the current details. But Judith will be performing with and without Brian Ferry in July and August. So if you live in or near Cleveland, Ohio, Ann Arbor, Michigan, or Evanston, Illinois, Judith will be in your area in July. And then, you're going to have a busy August. In August, she'll be in Denver, Colorado, St. Paul, Minnesota, Winnipeg, Manitoba. I know someone who lives there. Enoch, Alberta, Seattle, Washington, Vancouver, BC, Portland, Oregon, and Las Vegas. And then she will be rounding out this busy month with 6 California shows in Santa Barbara, Petaluma, Saratoga, Los Angeles, San Diego, and Laguna Beach. No Arizona shows, sigh. But I don't.
I know. You know why? We did the first half with him in March, which kind of crossed that. Not really. We never made it to Arizona. We never made it further than Austin, Texas. Actually, then we went up the center of the country. But this is meant to be the Pacific, Northwest. It's almost all Pacific Northwest.
Listen, I do not blame anybody for not wanting to come to Arizona in July or August. I don't even know why I'm here, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, there are times where you just don't want to be certain places in August at all. But hey, if you want some good aircon, come and see me. That's all I can say, because that's for sure. There'll be well air conditioned rooms. But I really hope people come out. And it's a tough time in August, summer. Lots of things going on, people away. But I really hope people come out and see this, because it's quite. With Brian and without Brian, it's an extraordinary show and an extraordinary group of musicians that I get to perform with. So I really hope people will make the effort and come out and see this.
And as I said, at judithowen.net, it's very specific about which players are at which shows in terms of your supporting band and in terms of if it's a headliner show or if you're with Brian Ferry. So that's where I recommend getting the real details.